The male version of Greta Thunberg said this about immigrant crime.
Are you a U.S.-born citizen?
100%.
You're statistically speaking 4 times more likely to commit a violent crime than an undocumented migrant.
Exposing all the phony immigrant crime studies today on The 10th Man. Renowned sociologist Michael Light rejects studies saying immigrants don't break the law for the same reasons we do. But he has a new study that everyone is quoting. Everyone from Kamala Harris to this guy.
We have 300,000 missing migrant children known sold into the sex trade. Per the last IG report, these are important issues. Our economy is important issues.
Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Are you a U.S.-born citizen?
100%.
You're statistically speaking 4 times more likely to commit a violent crime than an undocumented migrant. So when you kind of virtue signal on behalf...
In the video recording of this debate, a fact-check bubble pops up to prove what this arrogant young Democrat named Dean Withers is saying. Well, they're 0 for 2, because the fact-check bubble says 4 times less likely to commit property crime. But Withers says this.
You're statistically speaking 4 times more likely to commit a violent crime.
Why does the right let them get away with it? And of course, that statement is incorrect as well. Because the strongest conclusion any study can properly make is not immigrants commit very little crime. They can really only say they can't really tell by the data they looked at if there's an immigrant crime wave. In fact, all the news articles have these two things: a headline that says immigrant crime is a myth, then an opening paragraph saying Donald Trump says there's an immigrant crime wave. That's followed by the listing on an inconclusive study, inconclusive and/or flawed. And the press likes to use the non-event as news. ICE failed to show the immigrants were criminals. Trump did not rule out military force, to give examples. Or Elon Musk didn't prove there's government waste. Those are non-events reported as if they are events. But we'll be very specific about the flaws in the other two study types, one we'll look at today, and also the falsehoods from the pages of the New York Times coming up after this. See for yourself whether you'd call these news articles falsehoods. Undocumented immigrants far less likely to commit crimes in U.S. than citizens, reads the headline of a news release from the University of Wisconsin. This is the study that they're all talking about. It's the one that gets everyone excited because it's by Michael Light. Michael Light is a sociologist at the University of Wisconsin. If we followed the money, we would no doubt find he gets paid to weave the tales that he tells. In the last episode, we told how Stanford University compares incarceration rates of people it guesses to be immigrants and proves that they do not commit crime. Light has done similar studies. Remember, there are really only 3 study types, with different people performing the same ones. But Light now says the incarceration rate method is not effective. He gives some of the same reasons we gave, like records matching crimes to immigration status weren't available, quoting his article. He does not, however, criticize those studies for not having any data for the Joe Biden immigrants, because his study does the same thing. His data only covered the years from 2012 to 2018. Biden became president in 2021, and that's when the worst of the trouble began. But the data is not the biggest problem. The headline said, quote, undocumented immigrants far less likely to commit crimes in U.S. than citizens. But all of the data he looked at were for the state of Texas. He did it, and now everyone else is doing it, looking just at the state of Texas and saying it applies to the entire U.S. The Democrats have always had a problem with confirmation bias. They only see what they want to see. Looking only at the data for one state does not prove very much about the entire U.S. The left will take the evidence that something might be happening and say that it is happening. It may be that Light's findings give reason to conduct further research. There's a hypothesis. But his findings do not by any means prove his point. So why didn't he look at any other states? Because Texas is the only state, and there are 50 of them, where immigration status is included in arrest records. In most states, it's illegal to track it. And that tells you something right there. There's a possible causative factor impacting his results. But that doesn't stop Michael Light, the Cato Institute, and others from claiming they have proof of something they do not. Do we know for a fact that using Texas data only is wrong out of hand? We certainly know that having data for all the states would be better, but is it wrong to just use Texas? Probably. Using any of the border states is going to give a distorted view automatically. People breaking into the country will probably try to get to Ohio or New York before they start breaking the law, rather than attack the first policeman they see. The criminal events we're concerned about bear this out. Laken Riley was murdered in Georgia. Molly Tibbetts was murdered in Iowa. Kate Steinle was killed in San Francisco. The subway car where Debrina Kawam was set on fire was in New York City. It seems that if you want to find the worst crimes, you'd look anywhere but Texas. There are other reasons criminals might break the law elsewhere. Texas has a lot of Mexican Americans. They are not necessarily as welcoming to the Venezuelan and Chilean gangs as New York City white liberals. Texas is a red state where people have guns. Texas has capital punishment and uses it. Texas doesn't have sanctuary cities or high-rise immigrant shelters. That affects both crime and crime reporting. There are huge differences between the states, and any of them could have an impact on the results of this study. But this study is the main one they hang their hat on today when they say illegal immigrants commit less crime than the native-born. This is before we analyze the Texas data for flaws, of which many have been found. Of course, comparing relative crime between immigrants and the native-born is not even a valid comparison. There aren't millions of Americans invading Mexico or any other country and committing thousands of felonies, and there shouldn't be any of those people here. And yet, there are 500,000 foreigners living in Texas jails and prisons. Most of them are illegal, and they're living there at taxpayer expense, and they shouldn't be here at all. The immigrants in Texas jails committed 27,000 assaults, 15,000 sexual violations, 1,400 kidnappings, and over 500 murders. Over 500 Texans would still be alive if not for the immigrants. But do the Democrats say we have an immigrant murder every day? Do they say every life is precious? No. The Democrats say this.
As an aside, I'll tell you, having done the work I've done, it is our undocumented immigrants that are the least likely to commit a crime. So let's get our notions together about what we're talking about.
People are dying, and the Democrat response is a cute slogan, a lie, and a cackle. The Democrats and the fake news must have a secret meeting where they invent sayings, which their paid researchers then go and corroborate. The greatest cause of intentional death of kids in the United States is suicide, but they've convinced us that it's gun violence. Meanwhile, there are 7,000 illegals in Texas prisons on weapons convictions, and we have no idea how many more across the U.S. But those guns don't matter to the terrorist organization that is the Democrat Party. Democrats don't care about you or immigrants. If they did care, then they wouldn't have to lie. But the immigrants are just human shields to them. Democrats don't care about the law. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about you or your safety. They only care about getting elected. They only care about power.